You're listening to Walk the Talk with Kim. I'm Kim Ariano on Alternative Talk AM 1150 KKNW. And we are wrapping up the hour here in a fascinating conversation about alternative currency and community sustainability. So I know that there's so much more that Transitions is doing. So tell us a little bit about Transitions. So there's Life Dollars, which is a program that Transitions is adopting, that's looking at different ways of using this currency. I love how loose it is too, because it's, try it, see if you have any, do something. It's kind of fun, shopping without having to actually spend any money. Sounds kind of any what we consider, normal money.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Well, Transition started, I think it's been, it hasn't been going that long. Rob Hopkins was a permaculture teacher in England and was working with a class that wanted to do some work on powering down, or going beyond peak oil. So to do
What's permaculture?
A permaculture is a way of looking at, it's kind of gardening on steroids, I think. It's looking at all of the systems in growing in sustainability in terms of, it's the ecology, but looking at how life and just making life. I don't even have a really good
permaculture.
It's permaculture.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was a year ago either. So honestly, I had to read about it. Because. And that's another fascinating thing in itself, because it's all about systems and sustainability and organic, but growing things that actually grow in this community. But also like in gardening, in thinking in the different layers and levels. So you're working with the mycelium and the roots and the vines and the you have different plants that have different properties that contribute to the whole overall garden. So that's just in that system there. But on a bigger scale, they were looking at how do we, looking at peak oil in the face of a reduced production of oil, and it's going to be more and more and more expensive. And not only that, but the global warming and all the other problems,
right.
Wars and everything that's caused with our addiction to oil. How do we get beyond that? And that's really the basic question that the Transition group
What's next
was,
yeah.
And wanting it to be something hopeful.
Right.
That we can get back to the garden. I like to think of it as
right.
I was, I'm a little older, so I can think
Not
back
much.
to, back to, Woodstock. Let's get back to the garden.
You're talking about the hippies.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I'm with you.
So, so this is what they were trying to do, was come up with an energy descent plan for a community. How do we, as a community, plan for this? Mm-hmm. And so they went out looking for one anywhere, and there wasn't one. So they created one, and out of that evolved this Transition workbook that it's a workbook, handbook, I always get it mixed up, but it's like a 13-step kick the addiction to oil, but it's also looking at global warming and the energy or the economic crisis, but in a way that is, how do we as a community come together and build resilience and connections so that we can be strong and thrive and strengthen our families, strengthen our community, and have this be a really positive transition.
I love that, because when you think about that, it's easy to say, drive your car less. Okay, so we're going to, not spend as much money, and we're not going to pollute the air, just drive less. Well, okay, that's one way of looking at it. It's a start. But you can also look at, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this show is there is a economy of scale, and there's a lot of waste in every system. And when you look at something as simple as, carpooling, even go higher than that, what is moving naturally in the ebb and flow of a community that can be consolidated or can be done differently that can save the community at large. And so
Yeah.
it's individuals, but it's individuals working together within the very unique and wonderful community infrastructure, as opposed to this, global just consume less or consume more, as it were, is one way of getting out of these types of systems. So that's why the program was so interesting for me. It is some very, very smart people and people that really care sitting around and talking about the wonderful things that are in the community that they can use to the advantage of the group. And you can't go wrong with that.
No, that's one of the things that I get the most out of is the people that are involved are amazing and have wonderful experiences to share. There are, if you go on the website, and I think it'll be posted on.
It will, but go ahead and say it.
But and it's a Ning site. It's transitionsnoqualmievalley.ning. That you can join, and please do. And but there are several groups on there. So whatever your interests are, you can, or you have an interest in, you can join a gardening group or alternative energy group or a group that's working on transportation, or there's so many different.
There's an education group.
Yes,
There's
an arts group.
Yeah, there's all kinds of really fun stuff on there.
So there are people that have, and even in those groups themselves, they may meet or not meet. And our money group, the alternative currency group, actually did meet a few times and talked, and that was how we got, a little bit further into an evolution. But all of them are progressing to a point. We're starting to talk, we're planning a seed exchange for February, and I think there have been some seed exchanges in the Valley, but I don't think there's been a community-wide seed exchange.
You mean seed like gardening?
Garden seeds.
Okay.
Right, and this...
I'm looking at it philosophically, where my head's at.
Well, there's that
a seed
too.
exchange.
Yeah. Well, we have the Gaia group, and the spirituality group, and but the seed exchange, really, that is the more I'm learning, it's a huge political thing to take back the power of the biodiversity in our own local community, and it's huge. It's huge. We could spend another whole hour talking about that.
We probably can. You know what I want, though, is I want a good recipe for salmonberry jam.
That's in. Do you have enough salmonberries
Oh,
to make jam?
Lord, I've got salmonberries, and me and the salmonberries have had issues over the years, and I've chopped them back, and they've come back with a vengeance. And I've got, gosh, 200 feet of salmonberries because I'm right on the edge of the woods, to the national forest over there. And so I can't really go in there and eradicate them because it's kind of not my property.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
I figure, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to love them and cultivate them. This year was not a good year, but last year I had buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of salmonberries. Yes, beautiful salmonberries. And so my first attempt at making salmonberry jam, I made a giant Jolly Rancher. Is basically what I did. I overcooked it. It was so hard. My kids just licked it.
Really?
It was just this big salmonberry Jolly Rancher. And the second batch I made came out okay, but salmonberries are very seedy.
Well, join the food group. You know, another thing you might do is we built a solar dehydrator. My husband built a solar dehydrator. Well, I helped a little bit, but we actually dehydrated blackberries, and I thought it would just be, seeds. They were wonderful.
Wow. We are going to have you back on because we need to talk about the community network. We need to talk about gardening a little bit more, all that kind of fun stuff. Thank you, Kristy, so much for coming on today. It was a blast.
Thank you. It's been fun for me, too.
I had a great time. Well, you are listening to Alternative Talk KKNW. This was the Walk the Talk with Kim show. Don't forget our friends at Pearson Law Firm who's sponsoring our show today. Expert representation, a wealth of experience, and a kind, compassionate attitude from Pearson Law Firm. That is the Pearson Promise. And don't forget our Uncorked event at Ricardo's Mexican Restaurant. All this information will be on our website here as soon as I get home. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your week, and check out Life Dollars. Thank you.